नमस्कार. चतुर्थः पाठः गीतामृतम्. In this lesson, we have learned about Karma Yoga, the skillful work. Bhagavan Shri Krishna guides us that we have to perform our prescribed duties regularly. We should not think about the gains and the returns out of it. We should not have any type of such objectives of getting something out of performing our duties, and we should never deny to our duties. We should be equal about the success or the failure, the gains or the loss. Those are there present for us in our way of performing our duties. Even the great people have performed karma yoga. We should follow them, or else we should try to become karma yogi, and we should place an example for the other common men. We should we should perform the prescribed duty, and by this way we may reach the best and the supreme. This is what is guided by Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Now, here is another topic, Indriya Nigraha. Indriya are senses. These senses are useful for us to get knowledge of this world. By our eyes, we can observe the world. We get knowledge about how it looks, what is the shape and what is the color of the objects. By our ears, we hear to the sound. By our tongue, we can taste. By our skin, we understand the touch. And by our nose, we can smell the things. In this way, the various objects in the world are understood. The knowledge of them is obtained by the senses. Now here, Nigraha means restraint. Restraint of senses. Why restraint of senses is advised? Because Bhagavan Shri Krishna guides us Karma Yoga, and the main obstacle in performing Karma Yoga is the nature of our senses. The senses love their objects. They run after the objects. Also, they pull the mind towards the objects in the world, and therefore, in a natural way, men tends to be attracted by worldly pleasures. Longing for these pleasures, people have a greed, a form of lust in their mind to get everything, every worldly pleasure. And because of this, they forget Karma Yoga. We will read the verse, 6th verse. आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पूरेणानलेन च. Here we are thinking about common men. It is but natural that they love worldly pleasures. Lord Shri Krishna says even the men who are versatile, jnanin, who are learned, who are experts, even in the case of these jnanis, what happens is their jnanam, that is their inner heart, their soul, their pure conscience is covered, avrutam, by nitya vairina. Nitya vairi. Nitya is always, vairi is enemy. Now here is an enemy who is present inside us. His name is Kama, Kama Rupena. It is in the form of, the enemy is in the form of lust, Kama. It is greater than greed. It is lust. It is the greed by which we forget what is right and what is not. And therefore, this enemy Kama covers our conscience, and this lust is also called as Dushpurena Analena. These are Visheshani of Kamarupa. Kamarupena, Kamarupa is the Vishesha, Dushpura, another, Nityavairi. These are the adjectives. The Kama is compared with Anala. Analaha is equal to Agnihi, Vannihi, that is fire. How is it? Fire burns, it is burning. Even if so much type of fuel is used, so much quantity of fuel is used, the fire increases. It is never pacified. Similarly, lust, the greed in the man is never satisfied. Even if we get any good object in our life, we are not happy. We want more. And this greed, this lust never ends. And so it is compared with the fire which does not it does not get extinct. It burns more and more. It increases even when the fuel is added. Similarly, when we get more and more worldly pleasures, we are not satisfied. In fact, we should be satisfied when we get something, when we get worldly pleasure. But then, when we get worldly pleasures, our greed increases. And therefore, we are again dissatisfied. We again compare ourselves with the more rich people, and then we are dissatisfied. We want more and more. Our greed increases like fire. So, in the sixth verse, Jnaninaha, Jnanin ending in masculine pullinga shabdasya of this noun षष्ठी एकवचनम्. एतेन नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण दुष्पूरेण अनलेन. All these words are in instrumental case, that is Tritiya Vibhakti, Tritiya Ekvachanam. Avrutam is A plus Vrta, 9 UP. It is Karmabhudhavi Ta Pratyanta, that is, it is Krudanta. Kaunteya is the word. It means son of Kunti, and therefore this word is called as Taddi. So the meaning of the sixth verse, O Kaunteya, that is son of Kunti, that is Arjun, the wise living entity's pure conscience becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Seventh verse. धूमेनाव्रियते वर्णिर्यथादर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. In the sixth verse, Jnaninaha plus Nityavairina was the sandhi where the visarga changed to O. Dushpurena plus Amalena was the sandhi, Savarna Dirgha sandhi. In seventh verse, Dumena plus Avriyate is Savarna Dirgha sandhi. Next, Vannihi plus Yatha plus Adarshaha. Here, Vannir Yatha, the Visarga changes to Ra. Adarshaha plus Malena, Adarsho, Visarga changes to O. Next line, Yatha plus Ulbena plus Avrutaha plus Garbhaha plus Tatha. Yatha plus Ulbena, A plus U becomes O. Ulbena plus Avrutaha, Savarna Dirgha sandhi. Avrutaha plus Garbhaha, here the Visarga changes to O. Garbhaha plus Tatha, because of the Ta in the word Tatha, the Visarga changes to Sa, Garbhas Tatha. Tena plus Idam plus Avrutam. Tena plus Idam, A plus E becomes A. Tenedam plus Avrutam. So in this verse, a comparison is given. Examples are given as Dhumena Vannihi Avriyate. Vanni is Analaha, Agnihi, the fire. The fire is covered, Avriyate, by smoke, Dhuma. This is the first example. Second example, and because it is covered, it cannot be known truly how its shape is. Similarly, second thing, a mirror, Adarshaha, is covered, Avriyate, by Mala, that is dust. The mirror is covered by dust and therefore the reflection cannot be seen. Third example, Yatha Ulbena Garbhaha Avrutaha. As the embryo is covered by membrane. In the womb of mother, the embryo is protected by the membrane. And because of membrane, the embryo cannot uh, cannot move freely. By these three examples, the poet wants to say, Tatha tena idam avrutam. So this is covered by that. What does it mean? Tena idam avrutam. Look at the sixth verse. Tena means etena nityavairina kamarupena dushpurena analena. That is by this enemy in the form of lust. What is covered? Idam jnanam in the sixth verse. Jnanam avrutam. Idam avrutam. So this tena is referred to kamarupena, nityavairina, and idam is referred to jnanam, avrutam. So there is similarity in the examples given, and the poet wants to tell that the pure conscience of men, even though they are learned, they are well educated, they are experts, they are philosophers, even then their conscience is covered by this enemy in the form of lust. What is the example? The example is of Ravan. He was well educated and he was very mighty. He had kingdom of all the three worlds. Even though he was well educated, he was learned, he himself was very handsome, and even he was devotee of Lord Shankar. So in a way he was Jnani. But then what happened? He kidnapped Sita and he thought his lust, his lust in the form of fire made him do incorrect thing. But he never accepted his fault. This is the example how even a jnani person gets defeated by the enemy karma. Where does this karma dwell? It is given in the 8th verse. Before we start the 8th verse, in the 7th verse, avriyate, the same vru, a plus vru, here it is karmavachya, that is karmani, let lakar, pratham purush, ekvachanam. इन्द्रियाणि मनोबुद्धिरस्याधिष्ठानमुच्यते एतैर्विमोहयत्येष ज्ञानमावृत्य देहिनम्. Now, the senses, the mind, and the intellect, these are the abodes, adhishthanam, of him, asya, of him, of kama, of the enemy. Now, look at the situation. Kama is our eternal enemy, and it where does he dwell? He lives, he dwells in ourselves. Our senses, our mind, our intellect are his abodes. This is the contradiction. That is, we keep our enemy inside us and we are never aware of it. What does he do? Etaihi vimohayati eshaha. By these abodes, by these instruments, he, that is Kama, vimohayati, enchants us. He makes us confused. We cannot see what is right and what is wrong. We think even if we are not doing correct thing, we think it as to be correct. This is the position of even a jnani person. What about the common man? How does he do this thing? Jnanam avrutya dehinam. By covering the conscience, the viveka buddhi. There is a power inside our mind, inside us, our conscience, that tells us what to do, what not to do, what is correct and what is not. But then we don't listen to it. Why? Because it is covered by the lust, by the kama. In the eighth verse, manaha plus buddhi, here this is the sandhi where visarga becomes o. Buddhi plus asya, buddhirasya, the visarga changes to ra and a is added to it. So buddhirasya. Asya plus adhishtanam, asyadhishtanam plus uchyate. Second line, etaihi vimohayati. Etaihi, visarga becomes ra, etair vimohayati. Vimohayati plus eshaha, vimohayatyeshaha. Eshaha, the visarga vanishes. Jnanam plus avrutya dehanam. Now, here avrutya is 11th jiran, 11th avyay, पूर्वकालवाचक धातु साधित 11th अव्यय of the same a plus vru. Vimohayati is v plus moha nijanta lat lakar pratham purush ekvachanam. Uchyate is कर्मवाच्य lat lakar of vach or bru. The saralartha. Seventh verse, as the fire is covered by smoke, as the mirror is covered by dust, or as embryos are covered by membrane, conscience is similarly covered by the lust. Eighth verse, the senses, the mind, the intellect are the abode of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and enchants or infatuates him. And because of this, he cannot decide what is correct and what is not, what is right and what is wrong. Many times, what is wrong is thought to be right. The ninth verse, कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारस्य उच्यते. Now there are some people who think that they have a good control over senses and they pretend that they have no greed. How they pretend this? Karmendriyani sanyamya. They control their actions. They control their senses of action. but they think about it in their mind. Now, these greedy people don't show their greed, they don't accept that they are greedy, but because they keep the greed, the lust in their mind, their behavior is called as mithyachar. That is, they are pretender. They want to show that they are not greedy, but this is not true, and they just pretend to be not greedy. Such a man who pretends not to be greedy, but he thinks of getting money and worldly pleasures in his mind, is called as Vimudhatma. He is Vimudha, that is, he is defeated, he is enchanted by the lust. He runs after the worldly pleasures in his mind, even though he doesn't accept it, and therefore he pretends not to be greedy, but in his mind he is very much greedy. There may be pretenders who show that they are not greedy. They may be sadhus and Maharaj and Baba and all, and even if they pretend to be sannyasi, they are thinking about getting more and more money and more fame, even political power, and so these are the pretenders. Now in this verse, Sanyamya is a Labanta Jiran, Labanta Avyay, some plus Yama. Aste is Latlakar of Asa, 2AP. Manasa is Tritiya Ekvachanam of Manas ending in Saha, neuter Napusakalingam. Smaran is Shatranta, that is, it is Vartaman Kalvachak Dhatu Sadhit Visheshanam of Smru 1 pp. So it is Krudanta. Next, Saralatha. One who restrains the senses of action but whose mind thinks about the sense objects certainly deludes himself and is called as pretender. Sa and Esha, Saha and Eshaha, always the Visarga vanishing. 10th verse. यदा संहरते चायं कूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. Now here in this verse, in the first line, cha plus ayam chayam, kurmaha plus angani adik iva, kurmaha plus angani. The visarga becomes o and the changes to avagraha. Angani, first e, rasva ikar plus iva, again rasva ikar, makes savarna dirgha sandhi anganiva. Second line, indriyani, ni rasva plus indriyarthebhyaha, visarga changes to sa because ta is in front of it. Tasya prajna pratishtita. Now here samharate is latlakar of sam plus ru, pratishtita, prati plus tha, it is Ta pratyanta karmabhudhavi. It is also called as krudanta. Now, here is a person. What does he do? He removes his senses, withdraws his senses, indriyani, samharate, from indriyartha, from the sense objects. Remember, Mahatma Gandhi told, there are three monkeys and do not observe bad things, do not listen to bad things, and do not utter bad things. Similarly, here it is told that a person who withdraws his senses from sense objects so that the greed inside his mind should not increase. The main reason why the greed increases is we compare ourselves with others. When others have so many worldly pleasures, we get a question why I don't have all this, and therefore my greed increases. In this way, if we don't allow our senses to observe, to follow the sense objects, then the greed decreases. Here, an example is given of Kurmaha. Kurmaha is the tortoise. What does he do? Angani sarvashaha samharate. He removes, he draws his limbs, angani, within the shell. And so, in this way, he protects himself. Similarly, if a wise man withdraws his senses from the worldly objects, sense objects, then he protects himself. How? His conscience, his prajna is pratishtita, is stable. His conscience becomes protected and then it is stable and it guides him to the real happiness, the real satisfaction, the supreme and the best. Tasya prajna pratishtita. Now here the Saralartha, one who is able to withdraw his senses from the sense objects as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Tasya prajna pratishtita. His consciousness is perfect, it is stable, and it guides him very well. So, the Kama, the enemy, cannot defeat him. He has prajna, he has consciousness, which is pratishtita, which is perfect, which is stable, and because of this consciousness, he is never defeated by Kama, and therefore he gets the supreme. This person can perform karma yoga. He can become a karma yogi because he defeats kama. He does not want any personal gain out of his duties and therefore he performs his duty very well and he gets the real satisfaction and the real peace and the supreme.